Hello everyone. In this video I wanted to expand a little on dynamic events and talk specifically about the Kessex Hills zone and champion level enemies. Kessex Hills is a zone rich with these champion enemies, so it's a good area to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about. So in this video, I'm going to be facing off against 3 champions and 1 legendary enemy. The center of the map in Kessex Hills has 2 champions that have fixed spawn points. One of them is the bandit leader Tembe, and the other is the toxic alchemist. In addition, the toxic spider queen, another champion, has a chance to spawn in the area as well, although she does have a couple other spawn points around the map where she could show up instead. The Bandit Executioner is a legendary enemy, and for many players they might be the first legendary enemy that you face, since they have a chance to spawn after any bandit champion is killed. In order to get them to spawn, one of the people participating in the fight against a bandit champion has to have a specific item called a bandit death mark in their inventory when that champion dies, and then the executioner has a chance to show up after that point. Legendary enemies are much stronger than champion enemies and have some unique abilities and features that make fights against them less straightforward than the fights against champions. But to start with, let's talk about champions. Champions are strong enemies that have some unique mechanics, as well as what's called a break bar. You can see this bar below the health meter of the champion. Champions in general are immune to crowd control effects, so usually you can't stun them or knock them down and that sort of thing. However, these abilities are not useless against them. Whenever you do use a crowd control ability against a champion, it drains that break bar. The stronger the ability that you use, the more that the break bar will drop. For example, I'm using the Headbutt Elite skill for Berserker Warriors. Since this is an elite skill that stuns, it tends to drop the break bar more than my Mace 5 skill, which is a knockdown. Once a champion's break bar is fully drained, it'll be stunned for a period of time, which allows you to use your cooldowns and high damage abilities without fear of retaliation by the champion. In general, it's a good idea to use these crowd control abilities against champions as often as possible, since stunning them is going to let everybody who's fighting them go all out for a few seconds. Champions will also have some unique abilities in addition to simply just being stronger enemies. For example, the Spider Queen places some flowers that will explode after a few seconds and poison anyone that they hit. She'll also encase one person in webbing and then walk over to them and attempt to eat them. If she does eat them before the webbing can be broken, then the player dies. So if you're fighting her, it's a good idea to break the webbing when you see a player get wrapped up, since if it comes down to 1 versus 1, things probably won't go too well for you. Similarly, the Toxic Alchemist also has some poison abilities, as well as a shield that she puts up. The shield lasts for a few seconds, and then she explodes the shield, doing damage and knocking down anybody who's nearby. In addition, in the Alchemist fight, there's going to be a lot of veteran and elite enemies running around, so you have to keep an eye on them as well. Bandit leaders are usually all a little similar. In this case, Tembe leaves areas on the ground that blind and deal damage to you if you walk into them, and as you can see, she spends a lot of time dashing around. If you do get hit by the dash, she knocks you down, and it does a bit of damage to you. When we killed Tembe, a Bandit Executioner spawned. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Executioners are a rare event that has a chance to happen whenever bandit leaders are killed. However, unlike other enemies in this video, the Executioner is a legendary enemy. Just like champions are on another level from veteran and elite enemies, legendary enemies are on an even higher level than champions. In addition to having unique abilities of their own, they have a caveat where their break bars are only vulnerable during certain windows. In this case, against the Executioner, her break bar is only vulnerable when she is in the process of executing somebody. One other thing that's unique to the Executioner is the large bubble that she places when she appears. This bubble is tied to her event conditions, which basically say that she'll only appear for as long as it takes for her to claim vengeance. Mechanically, the way that this works is once there are no more people alive inside the bubble, she's claimed her vengeance and she will disappear, giving no loot and only the stinging feeling of disappointment. The bubble itself has some mechanics that you should be aware of as well. If you have ever fought the Executioner, I'm sure you've tried to run through the bubble only to be knocked back. Now, I'm not 100% sure on these mechanics, but I believe that the way that the bubble works is that if you are involved in the fight against the bandit champion that caused the Executioner to spawn, you can move in and out of the bubble so long as you have not died. Once you die, then you're not able to get back inside. And similarly, if you're not involved in that event that spawned the Executioner, you can't get into the bubble. I may be wrong on this, so take it with a grain of salt. Either way, when you actually are able to get inside the bubble, if you have some way of turning it invulnerable or by using a teleport skill like the Mesmer Blink. Whenever you're involved in a fight with the Executioner, be sure to go out of your way to heal downed players. The more people that are up and fighting, the more damage that the Executioner will take, and downed players immediately become the Executioner's target, and she'll try to take them out as soon as possible. Aside from that, if you're ranged, you probably won't take too much damage from the Executioner herself. It should only be concerned with the veteran enemies that spawn during the fight. However, while the Executioner has the large blue orb circling her, she will reflect projectiles, so keep that in mind. If you're a melee fighter, for example, I'm using my warrior in this video, you should be aware of the damaging areas that the veteran enemies place on the ground, and in general, be aware of which direction that the Executioner is facing. The Executioner mostly has warrior greatsword abilities, although not 100 blades, thankfully. So you'll want to dodge the whirlwind attack, and otherwise try to stay behind the Executioner while dealing damage. The Executioner fight is pretty much always going to be a long, drawn-out affair, so be ready for the long haul if you do want to stay and fight. That said, it is a rewarding feeling when she finally drops after such an involved fight, and you do end up with some decent loot, so it is worth it to stick around and contribute even though it's going to last a while. Finally, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, Keswick's Hills is rich with champion enemies and events, and shortly after we finished the fight against the Executioner, the Spider Queen spawned nearby again, and we got to quickly take her out and get some more loot. It's pretty much always worth it to kill a champion, as you'll get a loot bag that contains some gear, crafting materials, and some spirit shards, which are a currency used at the Mystic Forge in Lion's Arch. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something.